welcome to our coffee session as we lead up to the 5th annual Voices of Change event this coming August. And I love the in-studio audience in the spaces. So my name is Jo Pole. I'm from Carney. I'm a senior advisor, and it is a pleasure and privilege to be a part of this hybrid event. Really, it's come to reflect our new ways of working in an ever-changing environment. And to our hosts, Nedbank, thank you so much for creating a safe space, not only to work, but also to bank. And from that perspective, in the audience, we have an auditorium that can accommodate up to 100. So it's safe to take your masks off, but can I ask you for COVID protocols to be 1 seat apart in the spaces? And how lovely to see you in full face smile mode. So, and to everyone online, welcome to. You would have seen earlier, the questions can be posted in the Teams piece as well as on the WhatsApp chat. But without further ado, on behalf of Voices of Change and the founding partners, Business Engage, Accenture, and Nedbank, we invite you to boldly keep on going in terms of the conversations around how we actively drive gender equality and in a more inclusive society. We acknowledge the partners that have joined us on this journey too, made their voices heard, and helped create a space for others to step up and step in. So thank you, AECI, Anglo Gold Ashanti, Astron Energy, EOH, Hollard, Carney, Life Healthcare, Pfizer, and Refinitiv. A little bit of background, I think, for those of you that are new to the process, from a Voice of Change's perspective, or VOC, as we fondly call it. In 2017, there was a time before COVID, at one of the Young World Summits, Accenture and Thomson Reuters saw an opportunity not only to leverage their networks, but also their expertise and create lasting and impactful change. So the theme, she, he, we, is power was born. There's a very strong message in that phrase, she, he, we, is power. To harness the power of diversity will require a collective effort. It is clear that the power of we, yes, men and women, is needed to build meaningful, impactful, and an economically inclusive society for individuals and for all. So Vox strengthens that purpose in terms of gender equality. Storytelling like today and sharing our experiences, successes, and measures has helped gain momentum. To be clear, this is not an initiative. This is a movement. Okay. So the partners mentioned earlier on this platform are advocates in terms of creating awareness, supporting each other, and access to thought leadership around gender equality and women's empowerment. This month, Nedbank is the host of a coffee session and certainly proud to be a part of the VOC movement. Over the past few years, we've gained momentum. In terms of founding partner status, also demonstrated continued support and leadership in tackling the social issues in South Africa and beyond. So today, I'm very proud to have Dr. Mzamo Masito, Chief Marketing Officer of Google Africa, Google him, as our guest speaker to share his topic as an observer looking in. To be clear, he is very well equipped for this. The brother to 8 sisters and father of 3 beautiful daughters, you are the right man for the moment. So with that, let's discuss the agenda first before we introduce you. So today we're going to be able to cover an introduction, a talk from Mzamo that will no doubt be inspiring those of you that have seen his podcast previously, and then we'll do a Q&A session and a wrap-up. Please, again, send us your questions on WhatsApp or in the Teams chat. We'll be sure to answer as many as possible in the Q&A. And with that, here's a little bit more about Dr. Mzamo Masito. He's the Chief Marketing Officer, as mentioned, for Google Africa. He has been responsible for bringing Google mission, helpfulness, and values to life on the continent. He believes, and this resonates so deeply with me, when you solve for Africa, you solve for the world. Dr. Masito has been a business practitioner academic for a quarter of a century. He has several senior roles in key corporates, Unilever, Nike, Vodafone, Vodacom. He has founded and led his own consultancy, People Insights Consultancy, that focuses on, and this is the nerd in me, data analytics, behavioral science, statistical scenario analysis, consumer and marketing insights. It also speaks to the consultant in me. I love the fact that his consultancy is focused on the intersection between art and science. How incredible. He's lectured at UCT, AAA, Harvard Business School, and Gibbs, and the passion for education led him to start a non-profit, African Men Care. So the sole purpose there was to use education to democratize opportunity and increase transcendence for everyone. I think how apt in the week we celebrate Mandela Day, which was on Monday, to have a man that believes so strongly in education. And maybe to quote Madiba here, education is the most powerful weapon which you can use to change the world. And Dr. Masito is indeed doing that. He also serves on various non-executive boards and academic advisory pieces, such as TI Auto, Gibbs Red and Yellow Creative Business School. Won several awards, and those have been hard-earned and well-earned, from Women in Marketing Global Award for promoting and fostering women. A love for financial freedom, nerds, running, all forms of creative art, cows, we can ask him about that in the Q&A later, and talented kids is evident in his daily life. The constant search for knowledge to help kill or reduce ignorance is linked very much to his belief that prejudice is a long-term emotional commitment to ignorance. You can't kill your biases or your prejudice unless you're willing to kill or reduce your ignorance. A lot of this was born through his nonprofit out of his own upbringing, because to be gifted and talented and denied opportunity is a sin. So without further ado, I'd like to welcome and very warmly our man of the moment, Dr. Mzamo Masito. Please come take the stage.
Thank you so much. Okay. Morning.
Good morning.
Yes, it's Friday, so every now and then I'm going to run out of English because I have a airtime for English to Thursday, and then I'm out of bundle. So this Friday is really out of bundle Friday, and it takes a while to kick in English. So when I run out, just know the word is there. I'm just retrieving it in the cloud. So it's not a sign of slow. It's just a sign of it's in the cloud. And also, anyway, English is not a measure of intelligence. So I used to think that, but now I know, because most things in life have been invented without English. So, which means English actually is just another language. So, what I'm going to do, first, let me do this. Apparently, I'm controversial, apparently. And it's not my intention, but I had to put this. Google says, you get us into trouble. Can you just always tell people it's your opinions? So it's just my opinions. So that's the first part, like, yeah. And the other thing I'm going to say up front is that I have just been at work now for 4 months. Been at work, and for 2 years I was at home. And I found myself like seriously getting irritated. People just want to have meetings non-stop. But also one thing I've also found, which kind of took me a while to figure this out, which I should have figured out a long time ago. The people who get paid more than you talk more about them. People who get paid less than you don't gossip about them because the gossip is discounted. But if they get paid more than you, the gossip is premium. So no one ever wants to gossip about the security guard, which is weird because there's more stories there. But everyone wants to gossip about maybe Kensani or Ego Thomas or Mike because the gossip is premium. And it makes you look like you're in the know. And it also makes you look like you're in power when you know jack shit, but you just had it. So I was getting irritated, and then I went to my mentor and I was saying, I'm so irritated. People just keep gossiping. And then he said to me, like, if you are irritated by every rub, how are you ever going to be polished? So I thought like, oh shit, okay. And then he says, anyway, they're going to talk about you whether you like it or not. So just get over it. And so that helped a lot. I'm also doing this just in case, whatever I say now, and you get irritated, remember this. This is another way to lock you in. Just remember this. If you are irritated by every rub, anything I say, how are you ever going to be polished? So just get over it and just forgive me. The other reason I've been this month, one of the reasons actually I realized I've been easily irritated is because this is a hard month for me, July, August, because sort of like three things happened in a short space of time. My older brother, I've got only two older brothers. My father, biological father, whom didn't raise me like 7 out of 10 black kids, he took holiday from raising me. He has lots of kids I haven't met. I hear there's 33 of us. Yeah, like he's busy. So the 7 billion people, he contributed amazingly, immensely to that. So we should give him a Nobel Prize for population growth. But I haven't met them. I only know two. And I have an older brother. I'm close to two older brothers. The first one was in Cape Town, lost both his kidneys, and is on dialysis. So my family dies of one thing, diabetes. And most of our death is just diabetes. And then lungs collapse, kidneys collapse, heart collapses. It's just diabetes. So he's on dialysis. He's been on dialysis for a while now. But it happened around about this time. And it freaked me out because then I went to do tests. Shit, I don't know how many I did until the doctor said, dude, you need to stop now. It's okay. You run too many marathons. Just relax. You have middle class problems. You even do 10,000 steps. So that's just middle class. I've never seen someone in Alex thinking about 10,000 steps. Please show me if you've met one. So that's middle class problems. If you're a vegan, you have middle class problems. If you don't eat meat, you have middle class problems. I've never met someone in my township who's like, no, I'm not doing meat this month. If you're fasting, you have middle class problems. I've never met someone in my township who says, I'm fasting this month. I'm on a dry fast. No, even if Jesus comes, it's not going to happen. We ain't fasting. Hunger is important not to have. So I now go to therapy, especially July, August, a lot, because I realize that I'm easily triggered, easily irritated. And then what happened as well in that month, July, August, that my other older brother committed suicide. So he not only hanged himself, he hanged his son, his 8-year-old son, which is my nephew. And we found him dead after 3 days. As if that was not enough, my daughter attempted suicide. And then we found her and then had to stay in hospital 2 months. Then Akiso, there's a place called Akiso. For those who are not ashamed of talking about mental health, there is that place. So I had to take it to Akiso for 3 months, intensive cognitive therapy. Then I realized I was losing it. So I had to go to therapy every day just to stay afloat. So for men who are here, therapy works. And it's not, you don't become less of a man. You just become a better human being.
Tell them, Mzamo, tell them.
Oh, thank you. So it works. So please, and most companies offer therapy for free. The first session is 6. Like in my company, the first 8 or 10 are free. So you're not even paying damn shit. Like you just go for free and talk to someone for 10 sessions for free. I mean, whiskey is even more expensive than a therapist. But you buy whiskey, 10 of it, but not go to a therapist. It doesn't make sense. So I go to therapy, and when I was in therapy, one of the things I do is only 2 forms of therapy I like: cognitive behavioral therapy and dialectical behavioral therapy. I'm a bad person for a therapist because I'm nerdy, so I read everything. By the time I come to you, I am also telling you stuff. So I am seriously bad because I'm telling you, no, did you know Freud said this? No, you are wrong. And then there's like, dude, are you here for therapy or are you here for academic conference? So I really like psychology and behavioral science. So one of the things that happened there was that I needed to focus on self because I was spending too much time on others. And I found that my triggers were very much about others rather than self. And one of the things I've learned about self is that the first thing, we judge other people on their behaviors, and we judge ourselves on our intentions. No one knows your intentions. But we amazingly say, but I didn't mean it that way. It was not my intention. For those who are married, you kind of know. Men always say, it was not my intention. But no one sees your intention. But when we assess others, we assess them harshly on their behavior. But we want to be assessed on our intentions. That's the first flaw with human beings. And then the second flaw with me as a self is something called ontological humility. We see things not as they are. We see them as we are. So we're screwed already. The third thing, we have what is called introspection illusion. We are overconfident on our own self-assessment and also an assessment of others. Amazing, we think we get it. When you ask people who's likely to be a thief, we have a higher probability, great prediction index on others, but not on self. And you know that there's a study in behavioral science where they tagged people and they asked them about like who skipped robots when they read. They could point people in the pictures, that one. And they put their pictures as well, but they never pointed themselves. And then they track them. Your cars have trackers now. Almost 78% of the people who were there skipped a robot. The same people who said, is that one? They skipped a robot. 78%, almost 89% bribed a traffic cop. So we are screwed. We are great at othering, but we are not great at self-introspection or being honest. We don't torture our own souls to confess the truth about us. So I've been now, because you see too much therapy. So I've been trying to torture my own soul to confess the truth about me. And how do I become part of the problem? Because when we talk about transformation, it's much easier for me as a black person to blame white people. It's just the easy ticket out. And also, by the way, with white people, it's much easier for them to blame affirmative action. Even the most incompetent white person now, affirmative action is the hideaway. As if like all white people don't have a normal distribution curve as well. There's highly competent people, there's highly incompetent, on all races. It's a normal distribution curve. God is nice. All of us belong in a normal distribution curve. So my easy cop-out was, it's because I'm black. That's my easy. As soon as I start seeing things like, hey, darky. And sometimes there's nothing to do with me being black. It's just, I didn't do a great job. And that's just the truth. So the key thing then for me is that I am trying to work out, like I'm going to have a dialogue with you on, I'm going to spend less on the other and I'm going to spend more time on the self. And the part is, how do I score own goals? And how do I get in the way of my own progress as a black man or someone who belongs in an underrepresented group in corporate? All of us here, we spend too much time othering and less time self. And so the key thing as well, the reason for that, I love these two books and this author, Octavia Butler, but the last line I like is where she says, to shape God, you need to shape self. You cannot change anything if you don't change. So this is the part where I want to talk about this. And the other reason, the great Toni Morrison actually helped me with this a lot, like when she says that the very serious function of not even racism, actually any form of prejudice, homophobia, racism, xenophobia, you name it, it's just destruction. So if someone tells you you didn't invent anything, then we spend 50 years proving that we invented something. If they tell you your language is not smart, do you know that there was a time where men in behavioral science and neuroscience said women's brains are smaller and men's brains are bigger, therefore men are smarter than women. We spent 40 years researching brain sizes to prove that it's nonsense. It's actually not true. And now we know it's not true, but look, we wasted 40 years. Same thing, when someone says to me, oh no, there were no black people here when we arrived in 1652. Now we spent another 100 years proving we were here. 100. That's waste of time. And this is destruction. If you want to be distracted, allow people to tell you things that makes you go and try to prove it, that it is wrong. Just don't do that. Like, just pray for them. That's my thing now. When someone says something stupid, I just like, oh God, lightning. That's me. I just go straight to lightning. I know God has an ability to do lightning. So I just say, God, lightning. I know in my village, we've got people who can do lightning. In my village, I don't know your village, but mine, we can summon lightning quickly. So that's what I do. But I really like this because I really thought, okay, it's self. I'm going to focus on self. And by the way, before I go to this, like 7 or 8 things that I feel like get in the way of my own progress, self, it is real that racism exists, prejudice exists, homophobia exists. And it is real, by the way, even in science, you know that women, for example, the more competent a woman is, and the higher up she goes the position in corporate or any businesses, the more less liked she is. And then she gets called a bitch or something. Men can be incompetent and liked. I mean, our politics, I don't need to go far. We have enough case studies in our own country. And you can see it in the US. You can see it now. The UK had a guy who's now left, no names. But you can see that men can be incompetent and liked. Women doesn't work that way. So the gendering exclusion is real. So I'm not saying the other doesn't exist, but I'm saying if you spend too much time on that, then you rob yourself of the time that you can spend in growing yourself. And by the way, you know, like even in physical attractiveness, taller people are perceived to be more confident than short people. Something you didn't earn, you just got it from your parents. It's an unearned privilege just to be tall. Do you know that attractive people, there's a book you must read, it's called The Price of Beauty. The more attractive you are, you have a premium perception on confidence. And attractive people get promoted faster than, I'm not going to say ugly, not so attractive people. I just want to be woke. So, like you see, I have daughters, I need to be woke. Not so attractive people. So the shit is real. There are many things that are unearned, external, that you didn't. Height, physical attractiveness, sexual orientation. Straight people exclude people who identify as LGBTQA+. But all I'm learning though is, if I spend too much time talking about people in a privileged group, they spend less than 1% of their time talking about me. They're just busy talking about their privilege. And you busy talking about their privilege, which you don't have. You're wasting time. So get over it. It's like when I see men or women spending a lot of time talking about men, men spend so little time talking about you, unless maybe they're thinking about other things, which I won't mention. But same, I've noticed, like, if I hang out with my friend who's gay, he will say to me, like, then he starts talking about so and so. I said, dude, do you realize, like, that straight person that hasn't said anything about you? They don't even think about you, unless whenever, but they don't. So stop giving them too much airtime. You're just giving your power away. Then there's this thing called imposter syndrome. It's real. That feeling of imposter syndrome, it's real. But here's one thing I want to say though, is that it is not imposter syndrome to distrust others when, I'll give you 2 examples. When I became a board member at Unilever, I was appointed as a VP board member at Unilever. I'm like so happy, thinking, oh, the Daki has made it at last. I broke the ceiling. I am just that Daki. And my mother called me and my PA answered. But my PA happened to be a white woman. And my mother was like, what? Yo! And then, this is my mother. This is my mother's freedom. And my voicemail is not mine. So my PA used her voice. So my mother says, "Kuthetha umlungu," meaning a white woman is your voicemail. So that's my mother's freedom. The ultimate time when she realized she's free was when she called me and the voicemail was not me. It says Mzamo is not available, but it was not me. She was like, okay, that's it. We are done. We are free. This is not going to end. It's real. That's my mother's freedom time. Like, it was not when Mandela was released. That she was still skeptical. She stayed skeptical. She says, no, don't trust it, just in case it comes back. But when she listened to my voicemail, that was like, that's it. We are done now. So it is not the imposter syndrome when I'm walking behind two privileged members, people who come from a privileged group, and they don't see me. And they say, no, he got the job because he's black. That is not imposter syndrome. If I distrust you for that, that is not imposter syndrome. When I go to a first meeting and an agency comes, and the members of that agency tend to belong to a privileged group, and I'm already in that boardroom, and I'm seated there because I wanted to be on time and I wanted to break the stereotypes that darkies are late. So I'm always early because I never want to be late. Or if I'm running late, I will call you and apologize because I don't like the stereotype, because my job as a black person or someone who's in an underrepresented group is to unstereotype my own race. It is your job to unstereotype your own kind. And I don't like people when they entrench stereotypes about my own kind. So I'm there early. The agency people come in, they don't greet me first. And then they say to me after 10 minutes, sorry, you're in a wrong meeting. That is not imposter syndrome. The third example I give you, I was lecturing at UCT, first day as a academic staff and lecturer, associate professor, and I'm thinking, yo, the guy has made it. Look, UCT, yo, I'm just going to go there. So I'm there 30 minutes early. 4 professors come and they say to me, sorry, you are in a wrong meeting. Then I say to them, amazing, you have superpowers. How did you detect that I was in a wrong meeting? I want that superpower because I also want to go to meetings and be able to just look at someone in 2 seconds and say, you are in a wrong meeting. And they couldn't tell me. But what I'm saying is that if it's institutionalized exclusion, it is not imposter syndrome. You are not crazy. And I know people come from underrepresented group. You start thinking, am I crazy? Like, am I losing it? Then you start thinking, maybe I'm crazy. No, you're not. If the institution breeds exclusion and the feeling of not belonging and safety, if I go into a place and I'm told I belong, but all the imagery is Jan van Riebeeck, it doesn't work. That's institutionalized exclusion. That's not imposter syndrome. So we must separate the two, that there is a time when it is genuine imposter syndrome, but there are times when it's institutionalized exclusion. And don't confuse the two. So I had to learn not to confuse the two. The other second thing where I score mistakes, self. I took literal the thing, bring your whole self. English is not my mother tongue, so I took it literal. But I now realize that actually there's a nuance. It's a nuanced thing, that to bring your whole self is not a great idea. You must bring your best self, not your whole self. We don't need your prejudice. If you don't like gay people, please keep it to yourself and don't throw the Bible at us. That's just yours and your pastor and your group members in church. Leave us alone. But don't come here and say, I don't celebrate pride. If you say it publicly, we will whole self you out. Even though we said bring your whole self, we will whole self exit you. So that's something I've learned. And initially I made a mistake, by the way, because I really thought it meant you can say whatever is in your head. You know, it doesn't. And I made that mistake and I own it. And now I'm learning to bring my best self. And I'm also learning to bite my tongue. And I'm also learning to pray and meditate while you're talking. The second one, which I scored my own goals is I started badly in my career. I was broke. I had overdraft, I had credit cards. Within a year, I was driving a Range Rover, which I didn't afford. Now, the key thing I've learned about being broke, money is a measure of choices, mental bandwidth, and freedom. That's what money is. That's what financial freedom is. When you're broke, you are risk averse. When you're broke, you have high loss aversion. When you're broke, you kiss ass. When you're broke, you don't have great ideas. When you're broke, your boss is always right. It is a bad thing to be broke. And I just wish all of us, when people start working, we help them early to become financially free. I am so financially free now. When my boss talks, I'm like, no, dude, you are wrong. And I'm so calm in my saying you are wrong. And when they somehow changes, I'm like, no, you are wrong. And I'm not thinking I'm going to get fired because I'm like, so what? Because now I'm not broke. And also the thing is, I've realized with being broke, my dreams when I was broke, I was always falling. So you have those dreams, you're falling, and your ancestors always come hungry. They need a blanket, they are cold, there's always something like you have anxiety dreams when you're broke. Even when your phone rings, you know, you are net bank, so you call people a lot. You panic. Even if it's just your uncle calling, you just think, who am I owing? And I realized when I became financially free, my dreams, I don't fall, I'm flying. And I dream my ancestors look better, well-fed, highly nutritioned, and yeah, and they talk. And sometimes they even English. And I'm like, what? Yeah, I'm like, hey, these people are moving. And that's just what happens when you are not broke. But we underestimate as individuals the power of financial freedom and career progression. It's very hard to career progress when you're broke. And you also make poor career choices. You chase jobs, not meaning. And what you don't know is that the new job that gives you an additional 20% increase in salary, when you get that 20%, you back to zero because you adapt to the 20%. You don't change your lifestyle, you just change a new car, everything, then you're back to zero. Now you need another new job. So you just keep chasing these jobs because you're trying to close a gap. And that's what brokenness does. So if anything, I wish is that we're all financially free within the first 3 years of work. Ideally, the first year. Then after that, you're going to see how confident you are, like, and how you talk back. The other area I found has been an area for me as self that has been difficult is that I grew up in a place where I was told, be humble, put your head down. The corporate environment or business doesn't work that way. And by the way, women self-promote less than men. Underrepresented groups self-promote less. Women self-promote even less, irrespective of race. And even worse, if you're from an underrepresented group and you're a woman, and then you have like intersectionality, LGBTQ, identify with disability, identify as black, you have like that triple jackpot in life. You self-promote less. And this is one thing I've learned, is that I needed to learn to self-promote. And then I needed to learn that it is not bragging if it's based on facts. The thing is, I have been very uncomfortable to call myself doctor because I'm being like, it's going to look like I'm flossing and flaunting. But the truth is, shit, I am doctor actually. And I'm really smart, like seriously smart. Like, but I never owned it because I've been thinking, they're going to say I'm arrogant. And no, it's not bragging arrogance if it's based on facts. My IQ is very high. That's a fact. I majored in maths and stats. That's a fact. When I joined that class in maths and stats, there were 1,000 of us. When I got to third year, there were 10 of us. That already tells me something. When I got to fourth year, there were 6 of us. So I know that, but I didn't own it. Just own your thing. There's a time where if you stretch it too far, then it becomes an error. but still own it. When someone says you're ugly, it's an opinion, not a fact. Now, the only reason it becomes a fact is when you make it a fact. When you cry, like my daughter came and said, so-and-so said I'm ugly. And then I put her in the mirror. I said, so what do you see? I don't think I'm ugly. So now you spend 3 hours internalizing an opinion and you've made it a fact. And now, as your father, have to pay a therapist to help you move out of, I said, shit, these are middle class problems. If I was in the township, a nice papa would have sorted this quickly. No, I can't. I now need to send it to a psychiatrist because I'm also worried that it's triggering another suicide. You see, it's just, that's what we need. It's just, we need to learn to self-promote. We need to learn to know our strengths and advertise them. And women do badly at this. And women also do badly at negotiating money. And also women do badly at self-ranking. You know, at work, they do those assessments, 360 degrees, self-assessments. Women, if it's a scale of 1 to 5, women would give themselves a 2 or 3. Even if she's shit hot. I mean shit hot like work, competence. Men, even if they are 30% ready, 4.8 is the average. 4.8. If there was a 5.5, they would pick the 5.5. When women are asked, here's a role ready, apply, almost 90% of the women say, I'm not ready. Do you know that by the time when you're ready, it's late? So the concept about ready is late. No one is ever ready. Everyone is 50% there, 60. I promise you, even when Mike Brown became the CEO, there were moments where it's like, hey, I hope they don't catch me. All of us. When I got to board, I was like, hey, I hope I don't fumble this thing. I'm not sure I'm ready. But if you wait to be ready, you're late. So ready is late. Just bet on you. I had to learn to bet on me. But it took me a long time. And I wish I did it much earlier. And you stop saying I'm not ready. Then the other thing is, mistake I was making was that I was told that work, you must stay long. Because I was told if you job hop, it's a sign of something bad. It became clear to me that I'm going to use a sport analogy. There are many ways to be successful. There's a Ronaldo way. If you play football, Ronaldo is that guy who has 5 Ballon d'Ors. And then there's a Messi, Lionel Messi. He played for Barcelona. He had all his 6 or 7 Ballon d'Ors for Barcelona. Other people, it's okay to stay in one place and die there. 27 years or retire there. But it's not for everyone. I am in the Pep Guardiola, Ronaldo era that I will give you the best 5 years or 8, that's it. But me promising you 20 years, I forget. I've been free for 10 years, so I'm chasing freedom. It's not going to happen. But I made a mistake in that thinking that there's one way to be successful, which is stay long, put your head. And by the way, do you know that in most studies done on disposable income, it's actually not true that if you stay in one place longer, actually people who move jobs earn more than people who stay in jobs. Even within your company, if you have the courage to move more from one function to another function, you tend to be a lot more promotable than someone who stays in one place longer. So be careful of this thing being stuck that I want to be like my grandfather. When he retired, he only got a kist. Worked for 42 years. And you got a kist, a photo, and a fake gold watch. I told myself I will never be a kist guy and a fake gold watch and a certificate. It's never going to happen. And I was disappointed at the company that my grandfather worked in for 42 years. I mean, 42 years and you get a kist. What the fuck are we going to do with this kist? I didn't have money. At least if you open it and there was just cash and gold, then top. Nothing. So I don't like that. So that's the key thing, and that's something then the other area for me was that I had an inferiority complex when I started working. Because I grew up in a township, I went to a Bantu education school, I was not fluent in English, I assumed that I was not smart. And they didn't make it easy, by the way, the other darkies who went to the other schools. They will remind me every now and then. Because sometimes the people who are in the underrepresented group oppress each other. As I've told you, I'm not going to talk about white people. White people, I'm giving them a break. I'm being nice, really being nice today. The problem is, do you know that 90% of women discriminate other women? 90%. But we don't talk about that. We easily talk about other, but we don't talk about self. We are our own enemy. I am my own enemy. I had an inferiority complex. When I write briefs, when I started as a marketing, as an analyst inside, I would be so worried that my English was just not up to scratch. And then I told my neighbor, and he just said to me, so then go do a writing course. Why are you a victim? And then I went and I did a writing course. Then he says, go find an English teacher. I went and I found a primary school English teacher to teach me the basics of what's a proverb, what's a verb, because in my school, my teacher was drunk most of the time. I don't even know how we passed. And the only thing we learned was Jock was a brave dog. That was the first line of Jock of the Bushveld. And that's it. So I missed a foundation, and it was real. So I had to go and learn. And when I went, I got that teacher. She taught me, here are the basics. If you're in primary school, this is what you will learn. This is how English is structured. This is how you write. And then I'll send my briefs to her. She will critique them. She had known nothing about marketing. Give me feedback. Submit briefs. And stop being a victim. When I was in meetings, I didn't talk because I thought you raise your hand, miss. But when I attended meetings, people are not, the English is just flying. And then the meeting ends, and then 10 days I get feedback that I'm not confident. And then we equate over talking with confidence and competence. And confidence does not equal competence. Just because you look confident doesn't mean you're competent. And we equate this talking too much with confidence and competence. And I was penalized my first year of work for not being confident. So work on that inferiority complex and own it. It's yours. If you have an area of inferiority complex, there are ways to solve it. Mine was, and then I also attended, I went to a coach for public speaking, I Toastmaster, I started learning. You see that's me. Then the other thing was I drank a lot. I self-sabotaged. My first 5 years of work, 10, says I was an alcoholic. And I smoked weed so much that when I went to meetings, sometimes I was so high, things sounded right all the time. And that's self-sabotage. That has nothing to do with white people. That was just me. And this industry is full of cocaine heads, full of weed smokers. That's self-sabotage. That has nothing to do with other people. And I had to stop this. And there are 4 things really that kill most people: smoking, excessive alcohol drinking, poor diet, and no exercise. Just 4 things. And I was not doing I was doing well, actually. I was far exceeding the smoking, far exceeding the drinking, far exceeding KFC. I had shares there. So that's me. Then the last 2 things I'm going to share with you is that there's this thing called protective hesitation. In behavioral science, protective hesitation is when the privileged group hesitate to give the underrepresented group radical candor feedback. So if you are a man and you are giving feedback to a woman, or you are a man in senior role, you give feedback to a junior who happens to be a woman, and you don't give them useful, usable, promotable feedback, that's what we call protective hesitation. If you're a white person and you give feedback to a black person, but because you don't want to be seen as racist, you sugarcoat and soften the feedback, but it ends up being useless feedback. That's what we do. I've done that before. And also, I have seen John doing productivity to me, but I didn't stop him. And it's my job to say, no, I need the truth. Tell me the truth, no matter how bitter the truth is, so that I can grow. No one grows from underrepresented groups, don't get actionable, useful feedback. That's why career progression is slow. If you're in the privileged group, you get useful, actionable, radical candor feedback. And I've done that. So I need to change, and I'm trying to work on it, and I'm trying to make sure everyone, for me, you get brutal. You can cry, I'll have tissues, it's okay, let's go. And then you cry, fine. I've been therapy a lot, so tears don't freak me out. I just have a tissue and you cry. Whether you're a guy or a woman, you can cry all you want, but you're gonna hear the truth. The only thing I need to work on now is how I say that truth, because people don't listen to what you say, they also listen to how you say it. So how matters. Lastly, some of you have been told that it really work from home, almost like 60% of people don't want to return to work. They want to stay at home. The only thing I would say is this. There is enough scientific evidence to prove if you are from an underrepresented group and you work from home, your career will stall. You will have no career progression. The reason for that is proximity breeds liking and trust. The more I interact with you face to face, because we are social animals, we interact. I need to see your face. I need to see your facial expression. The more I interact with you, if there's a job available and 3 of us are vying for that job, the one we like the most or trust the most tends to be the one who have higher proximity and interaction with. So if you are at home, you are out of sight, out of mind. So you self-sabotage your own career. I do understand some of you are introverts and you want to stay at home. It feels right. It's the right thing to do, but it's career suicide. I go to work. I want my boss to see me. Hey, how are you? We hug. Hey. Because you can't buy liking. You can't buy trust. Competence, you can be competent at home. You can be productive at home, but what you miss is that human beings are feelings and emotion beings. And we make decisions on feelings, how it makes me feel, how you make me feel. And if you're not at work, I feel less. And I think more about you. And the more I think, the more deceived I am by my brain. Because I'll see more things that are wrong about you. I'll even see it on your screen. I'm like, hey, did you see? Hey, this one looked drunk today. So all I'm just encouraging you is that please, if you're from an underrepresented group, don't self-sabotage. Think more about the things that you do that stand in the way of your own progress, and stop spending too much time othering and thinking about what others do to you. It's just a waste of time. And I wish you well, and I wish you success, and I wish you do well, and I wish you really, really spend more time in growing self while growing and lifting others up. Thank you.
Oh, sorry, that deserved a squeeze from me. So, Dr. Mzamo, Masito, we don't have lots of time for questions, but I think everyone was hanging on every word. It was an amazing injection, and I'm proudly saying Dr. Mzamo, Masito, Zeus, given the lightning analogy that you raised. I just wanted to say share some shout outs that I think are worth noting around the people online, specifically Sam saying, to think I nearly didn't join the session, it would have been such an injustice to self. Well done to Sam. To Katiwe, around the authenticity around what you've shared, and you showed up today as you, and for that, thank you so much. To Taniko, honesty, wisdom, and how refreshing to listen to you. So to Nedbank and to Vok, thank you for bringing Mzamo today. Thank you for bringing you into our world and our office. And then with that, I think I'd like to ask you one question from the audience. There are many, and we'll get back to you off the back of there, is in this day and age, how do we get people in our country to treat men and women as equals and to respect women at home first and then in the workplace?
Sure. That's a higher grade question. I don't even have a PhD for that one. So that's going to be hard. The only thing I learned from my mother was that micro makes macro. Nothing starts from macro. Things start micro. I have daughters and sisters. Just start there. And the right to say things publicly. Same, if I'm a man, I need to earn the right to say things. I need to be an ally. I need to be a great ally. And I need to stop sexually objectifying women. And when someone comes, if she comes to me for help, the first thing shouldn't be to get laid. That's disrespectful. The first thing should be, I see a human being with potential who wants to transcend. And my job is to help her transcend. So I just think at the end, when all is said and done, we should first be very careful to think that it will be a revolution. There are no revolutions, and revolutions are unstable. Human beings have evolutionary, slow habits, especially men. Men evolve slow. It's like, when I say slow, I mean like, not tortoise. If there's something slower, really slow. So if you expect that group to evolve fast, all it does when that group is expected to evolve fast, the highest rate of suicide, completed suicide, is men, 4-1. Men break when they are pushed quickly too hard, and they commit completed suicide. So the key thing for me is, I think we also need more grace and mercy. I believe that cancel culture is actually dangerous to all of us, because it doesn't leave room for me to make more fuck-ups. It doesn't leave room for me to say something to you, and then you call me on the side, you say, you know what, you shouldn't say that. Here's why it's wrong. And then I'm like, oh, thank you very much. Instead of, I say it immediately, I'm cancelled. I feel like there's still room for more grace, more mercy. And then the last thing for me, I think in this country we made a mistake. We didn't put the elephants in the table. We put them under the table. For white people, black people, Indian, black, we just need to, the tough discussions, let's just have them. If we need to donor each other a little bit, that too maybe should be allowed, like in a boxing match. Let's just get this shit out of we have too much pent up shit that we haven't said to each other. And then it only comes out like a volcano when shit happens. So we don't talk the difficult things. I just wish we could have more sessions where we have conversations about the difficult things that are under the table, and we put them on top of the table, and we just wrestle and rumble with them, but have more grace and mercy, and stop cancelling each other.
I have no doubt that actually the sessions here after this and those that are online will see some rumblings and racing off the back of your challenge. We are human beings first, not human doings. And that brings me to another question. As we chase killing ignorance around self in the spaces, and Sean said to us, how do bankers and managers, so actually all people in leadership roles in the office, learn to talk about self-introspection? The stories you shared today are inspiring. How do you foster that? How do we learn to do that?
Now, for me, what I learned was that people remember stories. So we have to learn and fall in love with storytelling. But also people remember authenticity. So the more authentic you are with people, the more likely they are to open up to you. And so I always thought I should put clever first. But what my mentor used to say, first be clear, kind, then if you have time left, be clever. Only if you have time left. Because no one remembers you're clever. But everyone remembers when you were unclear, when you were not clear, when you were unkind, and also when you were dishonest with your truth. So the key thing I learned was that no one comes here as a banker. Everyone comes here with a heart, with issues. You got dumped, or you dumped someone, or someone told you crap, something. We all come here as humans, and then we wrap ourselves as a banker title so tight, as if like that's who we are. That's not who you are. Even when you're dead, we're not gonna wrap you in a net bank, whatever. Or your tombstone's gonna say, "Here lies a net bank." It doesn't normally say that anyway. So I don't understand, because you don't take that shit to the grave anyway. So why are you wrapping it so tightly? And why do you make it you? I mean, I work at Google, but I'm not Google. And Google can fire me tomorrow, I'll still be Mzamo. And that doesn't change. I don't need Google is not oxygen or water. Same, NetBank is not oxygen or water. Sorry to say that to NetBank, but you're not. And just try be you. And I feel like people come to places, I find like places like banking, motor industry, engineers. There's a thing where you have to be like a thing. It's like when you get married, you become a husband. I don't know why all of a sudden I'm a husband when I was in Mzamo. And then my wife is a wife now. She stopped being sexy and that kind of lady I know. And now she's a wife. Now she acts the role, not the person. And when we come here to work, we act the role, not us. And I found like my superpower everywhere I've been is when I am Mzamo.
Thank you.
That's my superpower. Thank you.
It's my turn to step off and to have Desh say the thank yous to everyone. But for me, here's to being unwrapped, but not undone. Thank you, Mzamo.
Thank you.
Wow, guys, how absolutely incredible to be part of this session today, both in the audience and online. My name is Deshika Naidu, and I lead the NetBank Gender Equity Forum. And it's been my absolute pleasure to host this hybrid event. We have some of our VOC partners and internal staff that have joined us in the audience, in the auditorium at NetBank in Sandton, and the rest have joined us virtually. As partners, we realize that keeping the conversation on gender equity going throughout the year is something that we have a responsibility to do. So I am so pleased to share that this has been our fourth VOC session, coffee session, and we've had approximately, wait for it, 2,500 people join us in the conversation today. We've had the pleasure, Mzamo, to have you chat about your perspective as an observer looking in, and how refreshing and encouraging to hear your thoughts and your views. Some of the things that you shared about the focus that we spend on ourselves versus on others is disproportionate. Taking care and making sure that you are financially safe is important, and self-promotion based on facts is okay. And Joe, what can I say to you? You've been passionate, you've been gracious, and you've held the space for us so tremendously well. Thank you for being part of today's conversations and driving us through that. Can we please give these two stunning individuals a heartfelt thank you? As a reminder to everyone, the Voices of Change, or VOC, is a partnership with many organizations. And this year, we have 12 participating companies, which are NetBank, Accenture, Business Engage, AECI, Anglo Gold Ashanti, Astron Energy, EOH, Hollard, Kearney, Life Healthcare, and Refinitiv. This partnership aims to create that continuous awareness to share knowledge, give access to thought leadership around gender equality. And I hope that you have gained as much as I have gained from these coffee sessions. I'll remind you all that we are coming up really close to our major event on the 12th of August. Please be on the lookout for those invites. Mzamo and Joe, just a little something from ourselves to say thank you and to let you remember your time here. Thank you. Thank you. To everyone, if you can take care, be safe, and enjoy the rest of the weekend. Thank you very much for joining us today.